And here to address that particular aspect and that particular excuse is a woman who knows a little something about the excuses that the Senate may be giving about weakening the bill and watering it down. We welcome Lauren Bunting and her daughter Isabella. Welcome, Lauren.
Abortion, the deliberate termination of a human pregnancy. An estimated 43% of all women will have at least one abortion by the time they are 45 years old. Hello, my name is Lauren Bunting, and I'm here to urge you, the Senate, to vote for the Real Heartbeat Bill, the only one that protects every baby with a beating heart. Sorry. The summer before my senior year, I met a guy through some of my friends. Going against my parents' wishes, we became extremely close. A few weeks into the new school year, he asked me to be his girlfriend. That's when things took a drastic turn. It was a week into our relationship, and we were at his house playing basketball when I got thirsty, and we went into his garage to get a drink. As soon as we walked in, he closed the garage door and forced me into a closet. He was wanting to have sex, but I told him no, yet he persisted. I tried to talk him out of it, but he didn't care. That's when I was raped. Because he had become so controlling, I was scared to tell anyone what happened. A few weeks later, I wasn't feeling good and knew something was up. That's when I took a pregnancy test and found out I was pregnant at the age of 17 by a guy I was scared to death of. As soon as I found out, I called him to tell him the news. In the beginning, he was excited, too scared to tell my parents. I waited a few weeks until my sister came home to tell them with me. When my sister finally came home, we called my mom up to my room and broke the news to her. We then broke the news to my dad. While talking to me, my sister confessed to having had an abortion in the past and suggested that I do the same. Even though I had been encouraged to have an abortion by several family members, I knew that wasn't the decision for me. At 12 weeks into the pregnancy, I had my first ultrasound. Soon after that, my mom took me to the Miami Valley Women's Center to talk about the choices I had regarding keeping my baby or putting it up for adoption. As I was leaving, I was handed a flower with a Bible verse attached that read, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." It was at that point that I knew the Lord's plan was for me to keep my child and raise it by myself. 3 weeks after graduation, my precious child was born. Although raising my child as a single parent has been hard and I've had to make many sacrifices, God has been faithful and has blessed my decision to raise my child. The Lord has brought many new friends into my life that have supported me. That have supported and encouraged me on a daily basis. He has also blessed me with many new opportunities to share my testimony with others and encourage them to choose life. Had I chosen to abort my child, I know I would not be standing here today sharing my testimony with you all. But the Lord has plans greater than mine. So, senators, tell me how being raped is an acceptable excuse to have an abortion. I stand before you today as a mother to an almost 3-year-old little girl, and once again propose that you hesitate no longer on passing the Real Heartbeat Bill, unaltered and uncompromised in any way. Innocent lives are depending on you to be their voice. Allow me now to introduce you to the heartbeat that has forever changed my life. Say hi.
Hi.
Say what?
What?
Hold on.
My mommy, so you
We would like to end on just one thought.
What if my mommy can go abort me?
If you didn't hear her, she said, what if my mommy had chosen to abort me? Thank you very much.
Wow. Bella, we are so glad you were born. And do you know that there's going to be a school bus full of children born every day that the Heartbeat Bill will save?
we need checks and balances. Why? Because of Jeremiah 17:9. The heart of man is wicked and deceptive. Who can know it? If we don't have checks and balances, we can have a great government, but these wicked men will not stay the course. So what are those checks and balances there for? When you read the Federalist Papers and Alexander Hamilton talked about our judiciary, well, we have the Holmesian and the Warren Court basically tell us that the Supreme Court is the supreme law of the land. That is constitutional heresy. The Constitution itself says it is the supreme law of the land. And so how do they get there? They get there with this ideology that they've created through their own mouth and dicta of saying that they get to interpret what the Constitution says, and so they get to make law. Well, you know what? Alexander Hamilton had a thing to say about the powers of the judiciary when he was trying to encourage the people to ratify the Constitution. They were afraid of a strong judiciary. They didn't want the Star Chamber and seditious libel and all the oppression that they'd had with the courts in England. So he said the judiciary would necessarily be the weakest branch of the government. I think we need to remind the Ohio legislature of that as well. He said they would necessarily be the weakest branch. The only way they would ever become the strongest branch is if they wrongfully usurped legislative power. And I like to ask my students, how long is the term of a Supreme Court justice? Everybody says life, but you know what? It's life with what? Good behavior. And that has meaning. And judicial legislating is not good behavior. And do you know what Alexander Hamilton said? He said that judiciary will necessarily be the weakest. The only way they ever become the strongest is if they wrongfully usurp legislative power. But he went on to say, but they will never do that because they would never dare to take authority from the very branch who has the responsibility to impeach them for such an act. Judicial legislating like Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey is an impeachable offense. It is not law, it is not binding, and it should not dictate to our Ohio legislators what they are sworn to do in upholding the Constitution. So I ask you this, what excuse do these elected senators have who have legislative power to not move and bring this bill to the floor for a vote? I tell you that the problem is not just rhinos. It's a little problem I like to call chinos, Christians in name only. The irony of the heartbeat bill is simply this. The hearts of thousands of innocent babies hang in the balance, basically dependent upon the hearts of alleged pro-life senators of Ohio. For them, we have to remind them that when the righteous are in power, the people rejoice. When the wicked are in power, the people mourn. And blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. I want to leave you with one final thought, because I can give you the most articulate speech in the world, but if it's just my words, it means nothing. Only the words of God are the words that He watches over to perform them, and they will not return void. And so this is my challenge to these Ohio senators. It's Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. I have set before you this day, blessing or cursing, life or death. And guess what, senators? He gave you the answer. God Himself told you. Therefore, choose life. Thank you.